For weeks, a dark cloud of panic has been hanging over Philadelphia, fueled by brutal stat lines and endless rumors that our offense is completely broken. People looked at the interception totals on paper and genuinely believed quarterback one was spiraling out of control before the regular season even kicked off. But the moment the gates opened and actual game action unfolded right before our eyes, every single lazy narrative crumbled to pieces. Before we break down the reality of what just happened, make sure to hit the like button, share this with fellow fans, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another breakdown. If you were following training camp solely through 280 character panic posts on social media, you would have sworn the sky was falling in South Philadelphia. The buzzwords were everywhere. 13 interceptions across 16 practices. That number alone was weaponized to convince the entire football world that this team was destined for disaster. Keep in mind, across 4 entire summers combined, we had only seen 15 interceptions total. So naturally, the moment word leaked that another pair of passes were picked off under the lights, the doom and gloom hit an absolute boiling point. How can we honestly demand an aggressive, modern passing attack that attacks the middle of the field, yet completely lose our minds the second growing pains show up during August practices? The truth is, reading a box score or a quick post from camp completely strips away the human element of football. You do not see the leverage, you do not see the timing, and you certainly do not see who is actually making the play. When you look at the raw footage from this live scrimmage, the entire conversation flips on its head. Those turnovers were not a sign of offensive decay. They were a showcase of defensive brilliance. Take that first takeaway over the middle. If you just saw the stat sheet, you would assume a terrible decision was made under center. But when you look closely at the play itself, the rookie wideout failed to run a sharp, disciplined route, drifting slightly off his landmark. That tiny hesitation gave Rick Woolen all the daylight he needed. Woolen read the concept, triggered his elite closing speed, and snatched the football out of the air. That is not an offense collapsing. That is an absolute physical freak of a cornerback making an elite athletic play on a ball he has seen run against him for a full month. The exact same thing happened on the pick six later in the session. Devontae Smith made his break toward the sideline on an out route. The ball was thrown on rhythm, right into what should have been a viable window. But Woolen, standing at 6'2" with insane length, jumped the route with total anticipation. He has lined up across from this exact grouping every single day throughout camp. He anticipated the break, undercut the angle, and took it back. In a regular season matchup, yes, you hate seeing the turnover. But when you're evaluating a football team in the summer, you realize something massive. Our starting secondary is not just good, they have the tools to be downright suffocating. Quinyon Mitchell looked just as locked down on his side of the field, reinforcing the idea that this defensive backfield is building something special. You can feel the confidence radiating off the entire unit. When you hear edge rusher Nolan Smith talk about the standard being set, he made it abundantly clear that this defense has no ceiling. They're constructing this thing brick by brick, trusting the leadership at the helm, and playing with total freedom. Speaking of Nolan Smith, he backed up that swagger on the field, blowing past Lane Johnson for what would have been an emphatic sack in live action. With Jonathan Greenid dealing with injury concerns, seeing a young pass rusher take massive strides forward is exactly the kind of energy this locker room needs. That defensive surge brings us straight into one of the biggest controversies swirling around the league right now. The sudden rumors linking Hayes and Reddick to a potential reunion. With pass rush-needy rosters calling around the league, reports indicate the 31-year-old veteran is generating heavy interest. Some are screaming that bringing him back on a cheap deal is a no-brainer to bolster the edge rotation. But let us be completely honest with ourselves. This is not the 11-sack powerhouse who wreaked havoc back in 2023. We are talking about a player with 3.5 sacks over the last 2 years combined. Do we really want to spend valuable cap space and disrupt the development of young, hungry talent for a name brand past his prime? That brings us directly to our question of the day. Would you welcome Hayes and Reddick back on a cheap veteran deal, or is it time to completely commit to developing the young talent on this edge? Drop your thoughts and debate it down in the comments below. Look at guys like Joshua Uche and what the coaching staff is building with young developmental players. During his press conference, head coach Nick Sirianni could not stop praising the hunger, culture, and relentless work ethic coming from the younger core. When you see improving players rallying the entire team and breaking down the huddle, you understand that culture matters just as much as past credentials. Handing away a roster spot to a veteran just for nostalgia might actually hurt this team more than it helps. Now, let us flip back to what everyone came to see, the debut of this newly structured offensive system in a full stadium environment. Despite the two early defensive highlights, this was easily the sharpest and most creative showing we have witnessed all summer. It started immediately with an absolute strike from the pocket, dropping a pass right into the breadbasket of Saquon Barkley for a gorgeous touchdown. That single play served as a flashing neon sign for how vital versatile running backs are going to be in this passing scheme. But if you look deeper into that exact snap, there was an even bigger story developing behind the scenes. At the top of his route, Mekhi Lemon broke wide open deep across the middle of the field. Even though the ball went to Barkley for 6, seeing receivers uncover in the intermediate areas of the field proves that the conceptual design is finally creating easy answers. And how about Lemon himself? The rookie followed that up by securing his first touchdown of the entire camp period, walking into the end zone completely uncovered. The coaching staff even had the creativity to align him out of the backfield, motioning him across the formation and causing pure chaos for the defense. If you showed that level of pre-snap motion and route innovation to the previous offensive coordinators who ran this scheme into the dirt, their heads would spin. That innovation peaked on a deep crosser to Hollywood Brown, where he found himself running wide open through the heart of the secondary for a walk-in touchdown. For the past year, fans are practically begging to see wide receivers attacking the vacated middle of the field instead of relying solely on low-percentage isolation throws on the perimeter. Seeing Hollywood glide across the hash marks completely uncontested proves that the spacing issues of the past are finally being erased. Even Devontae Smith put on an absolute masterclass, consistently creating separation against tight coverage. There was one sequence where quarterback 1 fired a rocket through a microscopic window right into Devontae's chest along the hashes. When you see timing, anticipation, and ball placement align like that in real time, all the hyperventilating about practice box scores starts to feel completely ridiculous. Of course, the session was not entirely flawless. The interior defensive front made their presence felt all night long. Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo were virtually impossible to block during one-on-one drills, routinely collapsing the pocket and disrupting the timing of the play. There were also missed opportunities, including a deep shot where Devontae had a step on his man, but the throw was slightly undercooked, resulting in an incomplete pass. Yet, when you look at the big picture, the progression from the first week of camp to right now is night and day. Early on, the timing was off, passes over the middle were hesitant, and the new concepts looked clunky. For weeks later, the execution is speeding up, players are finding open grass, and the offense is pushing the ball downfield against what might genuinely be one of the best defensive units in the entire National Football League. That rapid progression also gives us a crystal clear answer about the upcoming preseason finale against the Cincinnati Bengals. While many fans were wondering if the first-team offense would take the field on Friday night, Nick Sirianni's philosophy tells the whole story. The coaching staff views these high-intensity open practices and joint sessions as true game-grade evaluations. They put official game grades on these operational scrimmages, compiling roughly 8 or 9 full evaluations across the summer. With the starters getting live, high-stress reps in front of a packed house on Tuesday, do not expect to see the primary starters taking hits on Friday night. Turning to the rest of the roster, we have to address the concerning reports emerging around rookie second-round pick Eli Stowers. Beat writers have openly reported that the young tight end is currently far from ready for live game action, dealing with a lingering hamstring injury and likely heading toward being a game day inactive. Naturally, this has triggered heavy criticism toward the front office, with fans questioning why a premium second-round asset was spent on a developmental project when immediate contributors were sitting on the board. While the frustration is entirely fair, placing Stowers on injured reserve makes little sense if the goal is actual development. Putting him on the shelf completely removes him from weekly practice reps. He needs time to heal, learn the playbook, and adjust to the speed of pro football. Is he going to be an impact weapon immediately? Probably not. But labeling a draft pick an outright failure before his first season even begins is a massive overreaction. On the flip side, the team seems to have struck gold just one round later with rookie offensive tackle Marquil Bell. With Fred Johnson struggling to hold down the swing tackle spot in relief of Lane Johnson, Bell has rapidly emerged as a dominant force along the offensive line. The film breakdown on this young tackle is jaw-dropping. He is throwing defensive linemen to the turf with pure violence, utilizing massive splits, violent punch placement, and devastating snatch-down techniques. Watching him toss 300-pound defenders completely out of the frame while skipping downfield to celebrate blocks makes it obvious that Philadelphia may have already secured their tackle of the future. Finally, the backup quarterback dynamic continues to raise eyebrows. Andy Dalton took the bulk of the second-team reps behind the starter, producing a mixed bag. He suffered a bad overthrow on an early route, but recovered nicely to hit Elijah Moore on a scoring strike across the middle. Still, the decision to give Dalton the majority of the backup workload ahead of Tanner McKee remains a genuine head-scratcher for fans who want to see the younger arm develop. With roster cutdowns fast approaching, Dalton could very well surface as a trade candidate for a quarterback-needy team like the Patriots once the preseason wraps up. When you step back and look at everything this open practice provided, the ultimate takeaway is crystal clear. The panic was manufactured, but the progress is real. We finally got an unfiltered look at the foundation being laid in Philadelphia, and the future looks significantly brighter than the critics wanted you to believe. This offense is expanding, the defense is ferocious, and the standard has officially been set. Now, it is time to take this momentum and prove it when the games actually count.